could be honest, it's the uncomfortable conversation. If I could be honest, it's the uncomfortable conversation. If I could be honest, it's the uncomfortable conversation. If I could be honest.
You got it from the old thing. You want the red one?
So, my daughter is my producer. Because she was trained for a time such as this. She just finished praying for me, so I am in tears, of course, before I got started. So for a very long time, I've been talking about starting a podcast, starting a YouTube channel, and just ministering, right? And I finally decided to do it because I understand that people are my purpose. I've decided what better time than now. Earlier today, my daughter asked me, what's going to be the title of the first podcast that you shoot? And I said, Ready or Not, Here I Come. Because it's the uncomfortable conversation, right? Far too often, we don't have enough of them. And when we neglect to have these conversations, doors stay closed. Doors for healing, doors for breakthrough, doors for success, doors for love, doors for a plethora of things stay closed because we won't have conversations that we know we need to for fear of rejection, for fear of hurting someone else's feelings, for fear of being ostracized. Well, I thought about all of those things. I even had conversations with my children about this, and I've mentioned it to my family. And what I realized recently was that he already has me in a season of isolation, right? So he's already began to isolate me from people, even people closest to me, because when you are a person such as myself, God has to hide you. I wrote a book a long time ago, some years ago, called Hide Me From Me, because it's what I felt like God has essentially done throughout my life, because I've lived a very interesting life. If you haven't read my book, and this isn't a plug for my book, it's just honest, there's something in my book for everybody, because I've lived a life where I haven't always made the right choices. I've done some things that I would have rather have hidden from God if I could. And because of that, I know that my life and the lessons that are in my book, in my memoir, will be a blessing for somebody, and that somebody can learn from it. I have this saying I told my kids, I've made all the mistakes for you. And while that won't stop them from making mistakes, I've made all the mistakes for you. You get to learn from me. I'm the blueprint. So when my daughter asked me what would the first title of the podcast be, and I said, Ready or Not, Here I Come, she looked at me in my bedroom and said, They not ready, Mommy. And I know that there are a lot of people who are not, including family members, because the things that I will share in the different conversations, and they won't be isolated to what I'm talking about today. There's nothing that's going to be off the table, but what I understand, what I'm going to touch on today, the thing that has really pushed me into this space where I'm beginning to now share and endeavoring into the uncomfortable conversation, is going to make people, especially those closest to me, feel very uncomfortable. In Black households, we have dirty little secrets that will kill a family. And in my family, there are some, of course, one that has really plagued my family, my household. I'm going to say my household. So I'll start by saying, for those of you who don't know me, I'm Tamika. I am a mom. I was a mom first. I was a daughter first. Then I was a mom. I was a wife before, previously married, divorced. I am currently a wife to my last husband. I love that man. Being a mom has been the best experience, my greatest teacher. Like, being a mom for me has always been a ministry. And I've always strived to be an amazing mom. I've always strived to really serve as the earthly covering for my children, as my pastor would call it. And I pray that I don't fail them miserably in the end, because I've honestly learned more from my children than my children will ever learn from me. I stand on that. I've said it in the past, and I stand on that. They've taught me some lessons. And the strength that I've gotten from being a mom is incomparable to anything I've ever experienced. But I'm a mom, I'm a wife, a daughter, a friend, a sister, a mentor, a godmother. I take that very seriously too. I am a published author. I've written about my life. Again, I am now an ordained minister. I'm excited about that. I'm really excited about this couple I'm marrying tomorrow. I'm super excited about that because even they are a testament to, you know, how time changes things, and, you know, being vocal and having conversations that are uncomfortable changes, you know, the way we view everything, love, marriage, just a, you know, wide array of things. So I'll start with, again, I've been burdened with doing this for a long time, and I did not, because again, I was afraid that it would hurt some people close to me. But I can't live in fear any longer, because if I do not have conversations starting with this one, then it will hurt me and my children and my grandchildren, right? I had to have a conversation recently with my kids because I wanted them to understand that when I open up this door, you can't close it, and it will promote healing and open up the doors for a lot of things. It will also open up the door for ridicule and for us to be ostracized and to be isolated from people that we love, you know, because they can't take the truth. Because what I'm going to share is the truth. I'm not going to tell no lies. You know, I'm an honest person. I live a very transparent life. In fact, I haven't been transparent enough, you know, because, you know, had I been a little more transparent, healing would have come, and I probably could have avoided a lot of things that have happened recently. So this summer, I shared very little when we did. So my family went on vacation earlier this summer. And when we went on vacation, we had a good time. My kids were acting up, and I just felt uncomfortable when we were there. And at one point I was like, you know what, I'm leaving, I'm going home. We were in Florida. And I did not go home. Man, I wish I had gone home. Whew, Lord, I wish I had gone home. Some of my family members and friends close to me know what I'm about to talk about. So at about 3:45 in the morning, I heard a wail, like a scream that I can't get out of my head. And it was a sister of mine, and she was screaming, "Get my sister." So I run down the stairs when I hear it, myself in heaven, my daughter. And when I run down the stairs, my sister is screaming, and she's saying, "Sakimi just left." And I'm looking around like in total disbelief. I run outside, there's no one out there. I grab keys, don't have shoes on, grab my cell phone, and I jump in the car, because where we were located, the vacation home was about a mile and a half from the gates of the resort and the compound. And so you had to drive. So she literally had just screamed. So I knew that she couldn't have gone far. And so I run outside, and there's no sign of her. So I call her. I call several times. She doesn't answer. And I'm at the gates. I'm blocking the gate because nobody was getting out. If she hadn't made it out, she wasn't going to make it out, you know, as far as I was concerned. And so, and I'm going to get through this without crying, because I've cried enough over the course of the last 4 months to water prayers. And I've gotten to a place of right here, right, where I can do this. So I was blocking the gates, and I called her, and she finally answered. And I'm on my other phone, because I've got 2 cell phones. I'm on another phone telling my mom's on vacation in Florida. My mom's trying to call her. I'm trying to call her. My mom's on the other phone, and she answers. And I said, "Baby, you're making the biggest mistake of your life." And my mom's on the phone like, "Sweetie," and she's like, "Mommy, maybe I am." She said, but I'm leaving, and I'm grown, and you can't stop me. And she started to go on, you know, telling me how my household is toxic, and just a lot of different things she said. And I'm sitting there like, okay. So fast forward, she ran away. Yes, ran away with someone. The young man drove across 5 state lines to get her. She met him on social media, and my daughter ran away. During that time, and I'll go into more later when I sit down with her, because she has agreed to come on camera and talk about it herself. So what I will share about it is, you know, there were family members close to her and me who said, you know, she ran away, don't do nothing for her. What she ran away with is all she'll have. I wouldn't do anything for her. Don't send her nothing. And that's why God didn't give her to them. That's why God gave her to me. One of my cousins, who I love dearly, who's a sister to me, said to me, "Don't listen to anybody but your heart. You do whatever you feel in your heart you need to do as a mother." And I did just that. Another cousin of mine has always said something that I live by, and that's try the Spirit by the Spirit, and that is what I did. I refused to listen to anybody but the Holy Spirit when it came to my children. And, you know, in previous years, especially with what, you know, I had already learned and dealt with as a mom. And so I tried the Spirit by the Spirit, and I did everything I was led to do. If I was led to be assertive, I did that. I consulted with my daughter's pastor because he has been so good to my children and so good to me and my family. And when I tell you I'm glad that I did what I did and that I did not take my hands off of my daughter, we went through a lot during those months. There was a lot of uncertain moments and a lot of arguments and us hanging up on each other and me questioning everything. But what I never questioned was myself as a mother, because what I know about myself as a mother is that I'm a good mother. And I say that in the most humble way. When I tell you that me and God partnered and I parent my kids the way God, leads me to, and times when I'm wrong, I will apologize to my kids. When I have made mistakes, I've apologized to them. I've gone to God and asked for forgiveness. But I've always had pure intentions, and I've always loved my children sacrificially. Do you hear me? I always put my kids before myself. And so I never questioned myself as a mother. And from the time she ran away, I remember telling my sister Deanne, I said, you know what? I have peace, and I'm not sure what this peace is. I'm not sure if this peace is that she's okay. I'm not sure what it is, but I have some peace. So fast forward, months later, rewind. A week after she left, the Lord, I asked my daughter, can I talk about this? And she said yes. So again, because I love my babies and I respect my babies and I wanted her permission. So the Lord, a week after she left, I'm talking to my mother and my husband and a couple of my sisters, and I said, individually, and I said, the Lord showed me that my daughter's gonna have a baby next year. And I just cried, I wept. And then I'm like, okay, well, maybe not. Maybe I got it wrong. Maybe this gift, maybe I was wrong. Maybe I got this one wrong. Maybe I didn't hear the Lord say this. So fast forward about 4.5 months. She came up for Christmas in July. We had a good time. She brought the gentleman with her because I needed him to understand that she was covered by men, not just by women, because, I had talked to him on the phone and everything. And she had to go out there and make her own choices, make her bed and lie in it, essentially. But she came up for Christmas in July. We saw her. And then I got a phone call, and she was ready to come home. When she came home, of course, as the Holy Spirit is the Holy Spirit and does not lie to me, my baby was pregnant, still is pregnant, and she is expected to give birth next year, just as God has showed me. Yes, so those of you who do not know, here it is. My 18-year-old baby is having a baby. And she truly is a baby having a baby. I realized that today when I dropped her off, and she's just like, Mommy. And I'm just sitting there like, Lord, and my mama said, your baby's having a baby. I was like, for sure, it's happening. So, which fast forward leads me to this very place right here. I've even had a couple people close to me who are just like, angry with her that she's having a baby and making this choice. But my daughter didn't just wake up and decide she wanted to run away and defy me and, set aside the faith-based life that we had. It took some things got her to this space, and I'm going to share just a tiny bit today, and then again when she and I sit down, we'll share more, of the uncomfortable, because I can't tell her story through her. I can only tell my story through my lenses. And having dealt with some of the things that she dealt with, I can only give you how it shook me, how it shaped me, how it made me navigate through life. So yes, my baby's having a baby, and but what pushed me into, having said that, what pushed me into this space, doing this, recording this, putting this out there right now in this time, is because my baby's having a baby. And what I realized maybe like a couple of weeks ago was that I got a generation come. My second generation is coming. My second generation. My children are my first, as you know. So my grandchildren, I do have grandchildren. I have 6 of them. But they are my stepdaughter's children. And although I love them with every piece of my heart, they make my heart smile. I love my grandbabies. I absolutely love all of them. There's something different about when your generation of children have children. Like when your natural children have children, this changes things for me, because that generational curse, those generational purposes, those generational things that have been plaguing your family will continue if you do not kill them, and my I will kill it. Do you hear me? I remember praying Thanksgiving, and I said, Lord, if there's anything that is not of you, kill it. If there's anything that's going to disrupt my family unit, kill it now. And so my brother laughed, and he said, you must got a relationship with God. You asked him to kill things. Listen, because I know who God is, right? And so I feel like I was prepared and built for a season such as this. I refuse to let things that my daughter went through, I refuse to let my grandbaby go through it. I refuse to let my daughter deal with the things that I have dealt with as a mother, being in her shoes, just because I'm afraid to talk about something, which leads me to this. So years ago, years and years ago, I was about 11 years old. I was molested. I talk about it in my book. I'm jumping right into it. Dive right into it, ready or not. Here I come, y'all. So years ago, I was molested. I was 11. The man was about 29, 30, if not older than that. And I tell people all the time, there's something with molestation that happens that is natural. It's not like rape, because rape is forced penetration. But with molestation, there's something that your body does. Your body responds naturally. So as a 11-year-old, and there are kids who experience it even younger, you do not understand psychologically what is happening to you and why it feels the way it does, and you know that it's wrong. So I pretended I was asleep, and then after he was done and I knew the coast was clear, I woke my cousin up. I had her call my mom, and the rest is history. It's in my book, right? That was the one thing I always feared. So when I started to have children, I didn't even want kids because of that. I did not want to have children after what I experienced that one time. And that was the only time that happened to me. I was raped as an adult. But molestation was different, right? And with rape, there was an umbrella of shame, because I felt like I put myself in a bad situation that brought it on. And it took me a long time to forgive myself and to forgive that individual. And but with molestation, it was so different. And because of that, I did not want kids. So when I got married and I wanted to have kids, I was a stepmother first, and I loved being a stepmom. They were as my stepdaughter, God rest her soul, said, we were your practice children, right? And I tried to get it right with them. I worked hard as a stepmom. I was young though. I was 19 when I became a stepmom. And so when I started to have children, it scared me, because I didn't want my daughters to ever deal with what I dealt with. And so I feared it. And again, I'm going to do this without crying, because I didn't cry enough over the years. So when I became a mother of girls, I was afraid that my daughters would experience it. It's the one thing I feared. And so I heard like one of my older friends say, the one thing that you fear will be the thing that chase you down. So don't be afraid of it. When I shared this with her, back when I was like 24, 25, and I started to have kids, and I would hear her voice in my ear, but I never could shake the feeling of being scared, right? So one day I got a phone call at work that shook me to my core. My daughter had been molested. Not by one, but by two of my relatives. Both adolescent, but one was not at an age that was age-appropriate molestation. And I was so disgusted. I can't tell you as a mother the feeling that you feel to know that your daughter has been violated by somebody that you love, somebody that you've helped take care of, somebody that you have protected and would protect. And since then, I've still continued to do those things. Once I got to a place of forgiveness, oh, but how I've battled with things, because had I known then what I know now, since things have really come out about him being a predator, and he was a predator, and I don't care what family members takes this the wrong way, is ashamed of it, embarrassed, hurt, mad, I could care less. Understand, and let's be very clear, that my kids are always my priority, right? I have prayed fervently about sharing and about this moment, because it's so heavy for me and my children. But one of my kids said something so important to me not long ago. They said, we will never have healing unless it's addressed. And so while some might not want to talk about it, and some have to heal in their own time, because my daughter, no one believed my daughter but me. I remember going into the Center for Children, and one of my cousin's wives who worked there at the time had gotten my case and couldn't take it, because she said that we were family. And she looked at me and she said, everything's going to be okay. And I knew that it would, because I was there because they were trying to figure out if I was the one molesting my kids. And if something was happening in the home that was inappropriate that led to this. And I knew the truth, right? But I had to go through this, and I didn't inconvenience my family with it. She was the only person that knew that I was going to the Center for Children, right down here in Waldorf. And I had to sit before police and have my kids explain just everything, right? I still was the only person who believed my daughter. And that was frustrating for me. And I still put on a happy face and parented and, still best I could, right? But it was so hurtful that I was the only one who believed her, especially when my daughter wasn't his only victim. And I say victim because he was a predator. Anytime you do it for years, you're a predator. If you hunt where you're trusted, you're a predator. And he was a predator. My daughter was not the only person. And, later on, it was shared with us, that she wasn't the only person. This individual came forward and said, hey, I believed Sekindi because, I was a victim too. And at first there was an anger on the inside of me. Like, why tell me as an adult? Why share with me now what you could have shared years ago? And perhaps somebody would have believed my daughter. Perhaps I wouldn't have been the only one. Perhaps he would have gotten the help that he needed because he was a predator. I was fearful, for other people's children at that very point when I found out my daughter wasn't the only person. And then I found out he had another victim, which says, okay, yeah, he really was a predator, And so I was really angry for a long time. And I masked that anger with a smile, with distancing myself when I felt like I needed to, so that anger didn't come out and the rage didn't come out. It made me an overcompensating, overzealous, overreactive mom. And then I really overcompensated because it first started with my daughter having an absent dad. And then it started with my other daughter having an absent dad. And it started with my sons having absent fathers, except Messiah. His father is amazing. The best father I've ever met on the planet. Even better than my standing dad, Mike, that is. But, it really hit me as a mom. Like, it really shaped how I navigated through life. It made me more conscious, though. It did some positive things for me. It made me more conscious. It made me more aware. It did make me more protective than I was, probably a little overprotective, which made me keep tighter reins on my kids. My kids couldn't go nowhere. They only spent the night 3 places. My sister Lynette's, my sister Tasha, who's also my cousin, and my sister Shawan's house. She kept a couple of them a couple times outside of me and my mom's house. Those are the only places my kids went. My kids ain't go nowhere else. They couldn't go to friends' houses. That wasn't gonna happen. I was and people didn't understand it, but I didn't care. I didn't have to tell them because my daughter was molested. I didn't have to tell them because I was molested. And the very thing that I feared hit my daughter. And so now, right, I have to protect that generation coming. And my daughter, I don't want my daughter who's having a baby to have the same fears that I had, right? Because all of my kids have at some point said, now we understand why you didn't allow us to spend the night at people's houses. Now they understood. Now they understand why I'm such a overprotective mom, right? And until you become a parent, it's hard to understand why people make the choices they make as parents or why they feel the way they do. You never know. And then until you're in a person's shoes as it relates to any area of life, you will never fully understand why they operate the way they do or react the way they do. So this podcast is to have uncomfortable conversations. And the first one that I had to have was that. Why? Because that is going to set the tone for healing. I mean, that's going to, because on the opposite side of having uncomfortable conversations for me is going to be healing, is going to be breakthrough, is going to be freedom, is going to be financial security, is going to be success, it's going to be a lot of things, right? And it started with this because it's where my fears started. Like, it's where my problems first started. And I understand that generational curses, they did bring about a whole lot of demons. And this was the first one that I had to attack head on. And again, we'll talk more about it with my daughter because she is, again, willing to share. She said she wanted to, even before she came back home pregnant. she said she wanted to talk about it because there were things that she shared with me since that she suppressed, that I had to go through, like going to God, meditating, prayer. I had to go through a lot of fasting. I had to go through a lot to get to a place where I was able to even have a conversation with people again. Because like when she started sharing things with me that she suppressed, it hit me like a ton of bricks. And it made me say, you know what? Wow. Like I would never have helped this individual had I known that. Like what the world? Like did I really help him? You know, after I forgave him and he really was doing all of this, but when you are a victim of trauma, you tend to suppress things that have happened. Put them in the back of your mind will help you to not deal with them, right? But when you are in a situation where you are triggered, it will bring back things that you thought you never experienced, that you forgot about, that you wished you had forgotten about. Oh, when you're triggered, it bring about things. And that is what happened with my baby. So she didn't just get to a place where so for my family members who are mad at her and relatives who are upset with her that she ran away, I'm her mama and she broke my heart when she ran away. And she told me the other day, I'm never gonna break your heart again. I said, I'm gonna hold you to that. If I can forgive my daughter, so can y'all. You know, not that I'm begging y'all to forgive her, but I'm telling you that she didn't just wake up and decide to run away. Something pushed her to that point. And he wasn't the only person that pushed her to that point. Again, it started with her absent father. And then it just went with her being taken for granted and taken advantage of and violated. And then it pushed her to a point where she reacted. So she was in the trenches of trauma. And I praise God that he brought her up out of it. Because now my baby is back where she needs to be. And that is safe with me and my mama. And I say my mama because my mother has truly been pivotal in me and you know, having the support that I need to raise my children. You know, I've got a couple sisters who really pour into me as a mother and support me, you know, unconditionally and sacrificially. And Shawan is one of those sisters, Lord, that has supported me sacrificially and poured into me as a mother. You know, she's like my kid's other mother because, and heaven's her goddaughter, but she's like my kid's other mother because she's so good to me and my kids. I can't even express the love that I have for her because of that. But yeah, my baby is back safe with me. And I'm sorry I had to do that because my sister, I love my sister. Sometimes you got to give folks their flowers while they're here. So she knows how much I love her. But yeah, my mom has been pivotal. So my daughter is back home safe with us and out of the trenches of trauma. And you know, another reason I had to do this is because I realized after having a conversation with a youth pastor, I realized when my daughter left, sorry y'all, my lips dry. I realized that ministry for me, because God called me to minister. I remember Mother Akintunde, after I prayed at baby Andrew's graduation dinner party, she said, oh, you should be ministering. And I was like, really? And I said, you know what, I always wanted to, because I know that I knew that people were my purpose, but I didn't understand what God had in store for me or the direction God wanted me to go in. So when she spoke that over my life that day, you know, she talked about it and I always kept it in the back of my mind. And so for me, when I decided to endeavor into ministry this year, you know, I know that my reward is going to be my children's lives and my grandchildren's lives. It's not going to be a monetary reward. It's not going to be, if God sees fit to bless me monetarily, he will. But my reward is going to be the salvation, the protection, and the coverage, and the lives of my children, my grandchildren, and their children. So my legacy is going to be my reward. And that's what I'm looking forward to. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to helping some people break free. I'm looking forward to some people getting the healing that they need. Even the predator, the young man that molested my daughter and other girls in my family, I'm looking forward to him getting the help that he needs because he needs it. You know, he's not going to live a life of freedom and liberation until he gets it. And you know, God loves our enemies as much as he loves us. So as much as we get angry with folks for the things that they've done to us, baby, they are going to be recipients of the same grace and mercy that you're entitled to. And so for that reason, I pray that he gets what he needs because we're definitely going to get what we need. You know, Joshua 24:15, as for me and my house, right? We will serve the Lord And my kids, I've raised them under that umbrella since I was introduced to Christ. Reintroduced to Christ, because I was introduced as a child, but my reintroduction wasn't until I was an adult, pregnant with baby number 4. I was pregnant with Messiah when Tammy and Rayshawn, which are my son's godmothers, introduced me to Christ. And so when I was reintroduced to Christ, you know, I knew then that there was something that I needed to pour into my kids. It was something that they were going to need. And me endeavoring into ministry and doing the work of God is going to help a lot of people, because sometimes people need to understand that God doesn't just look like feel-good scriptures. So God is a God of mercy and grace. And, you know, but God is a God that has done things that, you know, we can be punished for here on earth, right? And because he's God. And so scripture teaches us a whole lot. You know, that's why it's good to learn the word of God and to seek and understand, pray for an understanding, and, you know, do research so that you understand who God really is, because, you know, you'll end up experiencing things like I did, like church hurt. That'll be an uncomfortable conversation, because I was a member of a huge church, and I was a servant leader, and I was hurt by church. I was really hurt by church. I almost like walked away from church for a while. And I remember hearing Pastor Charles during prayer as I was watching Transformation Church back in January of this year say, you know, I thank God for the person that's giving church one more try. You giving God one more try because of this sermon. And I was like, come on, Lord. My kids looked at me and was like, oh yeah, this is it. Because if you're not careful, life has, if you put too much stock into people and too much trust into man and not enough into God, life has a way of teaching you lessons that you wish you never had to learn. And one of those was church hurt. But, you know, I'm glad, because we are now a part of a congregation that is now doing what, and I take nothing away from the church I was at, because I learned so much. That is where my foundation was really laid. And yeah, I had grandparents who prayed and I went to church with them, but I don't remember most of that. What I know is what I was taught by the Reverend Dr. Delman Coates, and he did a fantastic job teaching me and my children, because he is truly a teacher, right? I learned so much under him. The children's ministry at Mount Eden Baptist Church was fantastic up until a certain point, you know. They really, and there are still a few people that were serving up there, and I was just sitting there like, they are so good. They're such good people. And I just felt my heart broke for them, because that ministry changed. It just changed. And my kids were no longer growing. And I watched how there was a man up there one day, and I won't get too much into it, and he was disrespectful to me. Like, he yelled at me and told me, next time, keep my child in church with me. Don't drop them off because they're not in daycare. Who were you talking to? I was serving for my 3rd time that day, and hadn't even gotten an opportunity to worship. And my son had only been there once because he danced the other 2 services. Like, who you talking to? Like, that's how I felt, right? Totally turned off. Nobody did anything about it. Or at least I don't know nobody did anything about it. And I had conversations with, you know, people in the front office. They did nothing about it. So, you know, so there were a lot of things that, you know, hurt me. But I'm excited now. I'm excited about what God has. I'm excited about ministry. I'm excited about being an ordained minister. I'm excited about uniting people in love. Like, that is something that is a passion of mine. So I'm excited about that. I'm excited about the healing that's on the other side of the secrets. I'm excited about, this is the first time I'm saying it out loud, I'm excited to become a grandmother next year, biologically. And although this is not the way I envisioned it for my child, because I wanted her to go to college and accomplish some things before she did this, it is happening. And it is life. It is a baby. It is a blessing. And she is my daughter, which means she's going to be an amazing mother, because I'm going to make sure that I continue to give her everything that she needs, all the tools that she needs to be successful as a mom. And because she is from this womb right here, from this anointed womb, my daughter's going to be an amazing mother. And I'm excited to become a grandmother. I'm excited to see what God has for her. She ain't going to make all the right choices, But, you know, historically she hasn't. She ain't gonna make all the right choices, but God is going to keep her. And I'm going to be right next to her every step of the way. And I'm just sorry that I did not do this sooner. Because perhaps, you know, God orders steps, so perhaps nothing. Life has ended up the way God intended for it to for us. And I'm excited about, you know, this next chapter. So I'm excited about the uncomfortable conversation, y'all. I'm super excited about the uncomfortable conversation. And listen, you know, my daughter's so gifted and so anointed, that years ago, this is to show you how long I've been planning on doing this and have been distracted. And every time I've gotten distracted, God has came forward and said, now do I have your attention? And I've had to redirect my focus. This time I'm focused though, y'all. I'm going to share something. This was so beautiful. So just to show you how long this has been in the works. So back in December of last year, my daughter and my son Jacob, he is such a genius and he's an engineer, has a degree and everything. He sat down with her last year in the middle when he came home from break for school, and they recorded the intro and outro music for my podcast, right? So I'm gonna share it for the first time today on here right now, going into this email, y'all. It's so beautiful because my daughter has the voice of an angel. She has the voice of an angel. And I'm excited about her voice. Okay, so I'm going to play it. Here it is. I'm sorry, y'all. Bear with me. I was disconnecting my AirPods so that it did not connect to this so that I can actually play it. Okay, I think music was probably playing in my ear. Am I still recording? I think so. So here we are. I think it's gonna play. I hope it don't play in my ear. There it is, guys. So he was so awesome. He's an awesome engineer. Let me make sure it's recording.
It's the uncomfortable conversation. If I could be honest.
Y'all hear my daughter's voice. That's my baby's voice.
If I could be honest. It's the uncomfortable conversation. If I could be honest. It's the uncomfortable conversation. If I could be honest.
Y'all heard that? That was my baby's voice. And it's definitely going to be some uncomfortable conversations. And I'm so ready for it. Heaven came out here. Heaven was like, she was back there like this. It's the uncomfortable conversation. Yes, and I own that because not only did I pay her, but I paid him for that beat. So I own that. So don't try and steal it, y'all. I own that beat. And it is copywritten. Don't play with me. It belongs to me because I paid for it. Okay? So I'm excited. Heaven, I'm done recording. Heaven's my producer. She's horrible, so I gotta use this little button. You know, I thought to Heaven.
What?
Heaven's my producer.